Hey everybody, this is video 8 of 14. I just did video 7 of 14 on my page, and I'm going to upload it here as well. But I just feel like doing a couple videos today because I feel like I'm in the headspace to be able to do this. I want to talk to you now about one of the trauma responses to prolonged trauma. There's a lot of trauma responses. There's things like PTSD. You can develop a lot of other things going on, anxiety, different things like that. But one of the most common things that I want to talk to you guys about is dissociative identity disorder, which was formerly known as multiple personality disorder. So because I'm talking about the Illuminati and the worldwide sex trafficking ring and also MK Ultra, I am talking to you guys about prolonged, intense, ritualistic abuse, intense sex trafficking, intense gang stalking, intense prolonged trauma. So we need to understand that a lot of victims of ritualistic abuse, a lot of victims of MK Ultra, and a lot of victims of sex trafficking actually split into alternate personalities. Their mind shatters from the trauma. So you guys, there's this mechanism that the brain has designed, and a lot of people have DID. In fact, I believe that at least 85% of the world has some form of DID, some level, because there's been so much trauma. God introduced a thing in our mind where we could actually split into fragmented parts of our soul, where our soul could fragment when we've been molested, when we've been raped, when we've been beaten, when we've been bullied, when we've been mentally abused, when we've been physically abused, when we've been sexually abused. And for those of us who've been trafficked or ritualistically abused, that causes a lot of shattering in a person. Some people don't fragment, some people don't split. But for most victims, they are split. Most everybody in Hollywood and Washington, D.C. are split. Most everybody in politics around the world are split. Most everybody that are elites, famous people are split, and they have DID. And this is because most of them are bloodliners and they were being trafficked and abused from the time they were children. A lot of people who aren't famous have DID. A lot of people who have been through intense trauma have DID. See, this thing was talked about in Psalm 34, verse 18. It says, God is close to the brokenhearted and a contrite spirit he cannot deny. So that scripture verse is talking about when a person's mind actually shatters. The word brokenhearted there is shabar, which means to fragment, to shatter, to be scattered. So actually it means that your mind is actually shattering into a million pieces. It means that your mind has split, and splits in your mind from severe trauma. For those of us who were born into multi-generational line of ritualistic abuse, like I was born into the Collins family, who are in the top 13 families in the Illuminati. My abuse started when I was just an infant. And it's very common for survivors of ritualistic abuse and prolonged sex trafficking to actually have their abuse start so young. And this can cause serious fractures in a person's personality. So when we're talking about dissociative identity disorder, it used to be known as multiple personality disorder. There's a lot of disinfo out there about it. A lot of people in the Christian community thinks that DID is demonic and they want to cast out the demons. Guys, demons can attach themselves to altars, but they themselves are not demons. Altars are parts of your personality that fragment from certain times of trauma. And if you've been ritualistically abused or sex trafficked, or you had prolonged sexual abuse or physical abuse or something really, really traumatic, you can be polyfragmented, which means that you're fragmented. Regular DID people have 100 or less altars, but people who are polyfragmented, people who've been through prolonged trauma, are split in so many different levels. Sometimes they can have thousands and even millions of altars. I've seen people who have millions of altars because of the trauma. The mind splits as it will. The mind you have no control over the splits. They happen from the trauma. Usually every split has to do with something traumatic. So the more trauma you go through, the more you're split. The less trauma you go through, the less you're split. But that's why I believe that at least 85% of the world is split. I've seen almost everybody I know who's had alternate personalities come out. Almost everybody I know that I've ever met, actually. There's a couple people that don't, but most everybody has alters. And we hear it in pop culture, like alter egos, like Superman and Clark Kent, or Diane and Wonder Woman. I think it was her name, Diane. I'm not a fan of Wonder Woman, but I think it was Diane. So there's the alter egos that we see where they're, like superheroes have an alter ego. They have their Bruce Banner and the Hulk, different things like that. They're called alter egos. Well, it's the same thing. In fact, I personally have heard from the intelligence community that a lot of the people that made comic books were actually trying to expose DID as a good, not expose it in a bad way, but trying to get the world to understand that there are alternate personalities by introducing these alter egos that people have. So these superheroes have one alternate personality that's a superhero, and the other part of them is just a regular person or a regular alien. In the case of Superman, who, by the way, I'm a super fan. I'm a super fan of Superman, so that's why I'm bringing that up. But anyhow, so they're just regular people, or in Superman's case, a regular alien. And then they have this alternate personality, which is usually the superhero side. Well, that is an example of an alternate ego, alter ego. That's what they call them in the comic books. Well, in the same way, that's how it is in our minds. And I believe, and I've been told by the intelligence community, that a lot of the comic book authors were actually trying to show people what it looked like to have DID. What DID is dissociative identity disorder. It means that your mind has fragmented from trauma. DID is not something to consider demonic. Like I said, there can be demons attached to altars, and those altars need freedom, but they themselves are not demonic. And then in the secular world, people think that everything's an altar and that nothing's a demon. Now, once again, demons are very real, altars, because of the trauma. You have to walk through that person and that personality with grace and with love and with prayer, but you have to show alternate personalities love. You have to remember that the mind is a very, very strong organ, and the mind breaks and shatters when there's severe trauma. A lot of survivors of trauma disassociate, maybe not creating other alternate personalities, but they do disassociate when the trauma happens. For instance, for me, I have times in my life where I remember who hurt me. I remember what they started doing, and I remember the end of it, but I don't remember the middle. I don't remember the actual rape. I just remember them starting to rape me. And then at the very end, them getting off of me and being done raping me, things like that. But I don't remember the actual act a lot of times because I was disassociating. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I was fragmented. It was just meaning that I was just checking out, because when you're being tortured and you're being abused, your mind overcompensates and you kind of check out. People disassociate all the time when they daydream. They daydream, they have daydreams, they get deep in thought. Those are forms of disassociation, just not the exact same form that I'm talking about. Disassociation happens to everybody, but not everybody splits into alternate personalities. But when you've been through severe trauma and you've been through severe abuse, your mind shatters into a million pieces and you actually develop alternate personalities. There's nothing wrong with that. Alternate personalities are talked about, like I said, in Psalm 34, verse 18. DID is biblical. It's talked about. It's the brokenness. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. The Lord's close to people who are split. He's close to people who have alternate personalities or multiple personalities, because he knows the trauma they've been through and he knows how broken they are. And he wants to minister to not just the person, but their alternate personalities. So now I want to give you some catchwords for DID, some keywords that maybe you guys can use, because you're probably going to run across at least one person in your life who's split. I'm sure you'll run across a lot of other people, but people just don't talk about it. But there's a lot of people in this world that are split. And like I said, the intelligence community and myself believe that at least 85% of people are split on some level. These splits are places that God can heal. These are places where the Lord can restore. Some people want to get restoration. Some people just want to work with their system. So I'm going to give you some keywords so you can understand. If you have any questions about this, again, I'm free to receive emails, info@theliontribes.com. I would love to answer any and all questions that you have. So let me talk to you about different sets up in the systems. First of all, a system is the body, the person's body, their mind. A system is the overall beings. It means every single alternate personality all together working together in a system. Systems usually have names for their systems. They usually name their systems so that they can have an overreaching name that doesn't just encompass the name of the body, but it encompasses the entire system. So that's kind of cool. So people can get very creative with their systems because their mind is their mind is reacting to the trauma, but they're trying to have an inside world. They can actually create inside worlds in their mind where they go to that's safe. And it's beautiful. It's so amazing what people can do in their minds. And so many systems are built the same way. So some of the main kind of alternate personalities that people can have is the core or the host, and some people call it pilot. Core/host, that's pilot, is the main personality that's always out. It may be the body's name. It may be somebody else. Sometimes the body's name is not the core personality's, the core personality's name. Sometimes people have co-cores, which means that they have one or more cores. So they're actually like a couple core personalities or a couple pilots or hosts, whichever word you use. Those are all used interchangeably depending on the system. And then you have protector alters that are designed to be protectors. They sometimes are fictives, meaning an fictive is an alter that takes on the identity of a fictional character, a historical character, or a character in pop culture. For instance, a lot of systems have, again, going back to the superhero thing, a lot of systems have superheroes as their protector altar, or they may have like teenager parts of them or whatever it might be. But some people have fictives, and fictives are often protectors as well. And I've noticed this is not always the case, but this is something I've noticed. So fictives are parts that are named after historical figures, after people in pop culture, or after fictional characters. And these fictives often double as protectors, at least one of them. Protectors are alters in a person's system that are trying to protect the system, trying to help them. Fictives usually do have something to do with the protectors, but not all the time. I've just seen this a lot. So this is why I'm saying that usually, because in my cases that I've seen dozens of people, it's always been like the fictive's been part of the core, or I'm sorry, part of the protector system. So then we have littles, which are alternate personalities that are anywhere from infancy to, I'd say, about 8 or 9 years old, probably about 9. And then there's your preteen alters, like 10 to 12, I'd say. And then there's your teenagers, of course, teenagers, 13 to 18. And then there's your bigs, who are adult alters. Then a lot of systems have like mother or father alters that take on the characteristics of a mother or father. Sometimes they have both, sometimes neither. But some systems have parent alters, or they take care of the system. They take care of the different alters. They help them with self-care. Some systems have alters called persecutory alters that are actually designed and usually are programmed. Not all persecutory alters are programmed, but a lot of them are programmed by their abusers to hurt the body or to hurt other people. And those are persecutory alters. And then there's alters that believe that they're demons. Those type of people themselves are not actually those type of alters are not necessarily actually demons. They just think that they are. It usually has to do with programming, but not all the time. Sometimes they may have an actual demon attached to them, but not all the time. Sometimes they're just angry and hurt, and they just take on the persona of a demon. But how you can tell as a Christian, and again, this is going back to Christianity. So if you're not a Christian, you can just ignore this part. But if you're a Christian, you're trying to minister to someone who has DID, and someone's demon altar comes up, how you can try to see if it's really an altar or if it's a demon is say, in the name of Jesus, I cast you out. If it doesn't leave, then it's actually a personality that's been programmed to believe that it's a demon and it needs inner healing. If it starts manifest or cussing at you, starts cussing it about God, starts to attack you, something like that, verbally or something, and that, there's a demon attached to it, so you cast it out. But just because someone says that they have a demon altar does not mean that it itself is an actual demon. It just means that it may have been programmed to believe that it was a demon, or it may hate things and think that because of its hate that it has to be a demon. We have to cultivate an atmosphere of love when we're ministering to people with dissociative identity disorder. So also then the other kinds of altars that there can be are altars that are programmed by organizations and or abusers for certain tasks. These programs may not necessarily be bad. Like a lot of celebrities have alternate personalities that are intelligence community programmed, or they are military alters. A lot of celebrities are either involved in both the military or in the intelligence community on some level because they're programmed from childhood to be part of that. Now, some of them may actually work on our side. They may be actually trying to expose the world trafficking ring and expose the false flag terrorism and expose the Illuminati. Some of them may be white eyes or gray eyes, the government and with the military that have alternate personalities that are programmed for that. Everybody that's in politics has at least one alternate personality that's programmed for everyone. High-level politics, rather, not low-level, but high-level politics have at least one alter that's programmed for governmental or for military work. So that's something, or for intelligence community work. That's very common. A lot of celebrities have that. And there's even regular human beings who have programming and programmed alters for the military or for government or for intelligence community. So that actually is very common. And then there's other things such as, and these things are less common, but there's other things such as cult loyals. Those alternate personalities, if a person's ritualistically abused, if they are a survivor of Luciferian ritualistic abuse, or if they're a survivor of Luciferian sex trafficking, they will have these things called cult loyals that could be programmed into them. Now, if you're become a Christian before the time you're 7 years old or younger, and you're being ritualistically abused, or if you're a bloodliner, you cannot have a cult loyal. But if you don't get saved until after 7 and you're a survivor of ritualistic abuse, chances are you have a cult loyal. What a cult loyal is an alternate personality that's designed by the occult to return to them, to have callback dates, which I'll talk about more in my next video in my next series of videos, because this is my last series. And the exposure part, the next series of videos is going to be about my own personal testimony. But, so one of the things I'm going to talk about is the callback date there, and I'll talk about that. So you guys can just keep tuning into my videos to learn more about callback dates. So what ritualistic abuse or what these alternate personalities that are cult loyals involve is a callback date. And then if a person has a callback date and they have a cult loyal altar, not everybody who has a callback date has a cult loyal. I didn't, because got saved when I was 3 years old. But a lot of bloodliners do have cult loyals. A lot of bloodliners, their minds shatter and they create cult loyal altars that are programmed to respond to the cult, go back in the cult on their cult back date and start to work for them, become emerald programmers, become emerald handlers, start to work for the occult, start to return information to them. The system themselves may be saved, but there's one or more altars that are programmed to be cult loyal. You really have to work with deliverance for those altars and for inner healing, deep inner healing, and they need to go through intense deprogramming, because a lot of times they're brainwashed to think that they have to return to those people because they don't know any better. The occult creates systematic trauma for victims of abuse. When you're a victim of occultic abuse, you have trauma handlers everywhere. You have people trying to re-traumatize you and program you everywhere. You have people all over the place that are sent into your life as handlers, as spies, as rapists, as abusers. It's absolutely horrible. It's systematic abuse. Many trauma victims that have been through MK Ultra or trauma-based mind control of any sort, or ritualistic abuse, or those who have been born into the Illuminati, or those who have been sex trafficked by the Illuminati, many of them will be raped and sexually assaulted by hundreds, if not thousands of people throughout their lives. It's disgusting, but this is what happens when you're a bloodliner. I was born into the Collins family, so I am a bloodliner, so I've experienced intense abuse my whole life. It's been a horrible life, I'll tell you that. But my relationship with Jesus has brought me through everything. So those are kind of the information about DID. Dissociative identity disorder is not something to be scared of. If you experience it for the first time, it might scare you a little bit because you don't understand it. It's okay to be scared a little bit at the first time. The first time that I met someone's altar was back in 2009, and I didn't understand it, because I didn't know anything about DID. But slowly over time, that became one of the biggest parts of our ministry, the Lion Tribes Ministries, was helping survivors and helping their altar to get people in the occult out of the occult. That's another thing that we've experienced. A lot of these people that I'm going to go over the next couple of days, people that tried to handle me, the abusers of mine, traffickers of mine, gang stalkers of mine, the celebrities and politicians involved, world leaders involved, a lot of those people, I was able to help some of them because I was able to get down to the core root of what their problem was. So when they were starting to attack me, I would always, if they were harassing me or attacking me, I would always try to get to the root cause of what happened to them, because almost all of these people in the occult were victims of ritualistic abuse or MK Ultra or sex trafficking themselves. So if you can ask them that when you're dealing with these people, now not everybody's prepared to ask these people that, and that's fine. But for me, that's been a big part of our ministry, to ask these people that, and then they actually switch and their alternate personalities come out and share a story. They may not even remember that story. That starts a process of either getting them away from abusing you, turning themselves into the cops, or getting them saved. And this is a process that I've seen over and over again with our ministry. Not everybody's supposed to do that. Please don't go up to some random culty and a random sex trafficker and start talking to them like that. It's not safe. But if you're in that position, this is what we've experienced, because we've been in this position for years, because we've been trying to expose the worldwide sex trafficking ring and the Illuminati and the Luciferians. So we get down to the core root. We say, what happened to you when you were a child? Who hurt you? Then they usually switch. Almost all the time they switch to another personality, and that other personality comes out, was real scared, usually a little, starts talking like a little kid, starts typing like a little kid. Some of the typing you can't even read because it's like a little kid's writing, because it is a little kid. It's trapped in that trauma. Alternate personalities are designed right when the trauma happened. Now, for most people, it's sexual trauma that causes alternate personalities, ritualistic abuse, and it's also sex trafficking. But for some people, it's physical abuse. Sometimes it's severe bullying. Sometimes it's emotional abuse. Sometimes it's spiritual abuses at churches, things like that. There's all kinds of different things. Anything that's a traumatic, even health issues. People have split because of health issues. People have split because someone in their family died and they had to take care of them and it was traumatic. Whatever's traumatic to a person, everybody's level of trauma is different. Whatever's traumatic to a person can cause a person to split. Not everybody who has health issues splits. Not everybody who sees is in a car wreck splits, but some people can, because it just depends on how their mind is fragmented from the trauma. Also, I want to talk to you guys about integration versus working with your system. So a lot of Christians, especially, and even some trauma therapists, even if they're not Christians, will try to encourage a person in a system to try to get integrated. There's nothing wrong with integration, guys, but my thoughts on integration is that integration is acting like something's wrong with a person. Now, if you want to be integrated, you can. If you are split and you want to be integrated and you don't want to be split anymore, you can ask God and you can work with your counselor and you can work with Jesus to try to fix your altars and try to get them to be integrated if that's what you desire. But it has to be a consensual vote within your system. Everybody in your system has to agree to it. Most systems, some altars want to get integrated. And what integration means is that they pretty much your shattered mind starts to heal and your mind isn't split anymore. It starts to heal and starts to get restored. For some people want that. Some people, most survivors of ritualistic abuse and sexual assault and sex trafficking don't want that, because what happens is when that part of you is integrated or put into your mind again, when your mind's put together and healed, in the sense that it's put together and it's not a puzzle anymore, but it's put together and the puzzle pieces are all together, which is what I consider integration. Think of a puzzle, okay? So you have all the little puzzle pieces. Those are the different altars. Integration would be like the entire puzzle piece being put together, but entire puzzle being put together and all the pieces put together in the right order. Now, some people would like that. Some people want to see the overall picture of the being considered quote unquote whole. But for most survivors, especially of ritualistic trauma, ritualistic abuse, MK Ultra, and sex trafficking and severe sexual abuse and severe physical abuse, most people don't want to be put back together again, quote unquote, because they don't want to remember all the things that happened to them. A lot of trauma. There's another altar that I want to talk to you about, gatekeepers. Those are the parts that are over the system that release certain memories. They take certain memories that are too traumatic and they release certain memories at certain times. These alternate personalities are used to protect the system. They're kind of like a protector, but they're not a full-blown protector, but they protect you from certain memories, and they take certain memories and they give you back certain memories at the right time. So sometimes the gatekeepers and systems don't want to be integrated because they're the ones carrying the secrets. They're the ones carrying the pain. They're the one carrying the emotions attached to the bad memories. And even if the system has the memories, if they get integrated, the gatekeeper gets integrated. And when the gatekeeper gets integrated, then all of the trauma connected to the bad events get stirred up and they get put back in the person's memory. That can be too much for a person to handle. That's the original reason why splitting wasn't designed. It was designed so that person who's traumatized, a person who's been heavily abused, and heavily traumatized, especially as a child, although it can happen as an adult as well, but especially as a child, that person doesn't get overloaded to the point where they have to commit suicide because the memories would be too painful. Your mind was never designed to be traumatized. Your mind was never designed to be abused. But there is a defense mechanism that God put in a person's mind so that they don't have to be afraid of these things. So that's what DID is all about, guys. So some people want to get integrated. Some people want the puzzle pieces to all be put together and for the puzzle to be completely designed. Some people want the puzzle pieces separated, and that's just continuing to have DID their entire life. There's nothing wrong with that. It's all about a system. And then there's some systems that want certain puzzle pieces put back together and certain left aside, ones that carry really, really traumatic memories. And that's fine too. So some can be integrated and some stay out. I know systems that are completely integrated. I know systems that are completely split. And I know systems that have some integrated altars. There's nothing wrong with any of that. It's just a preference of the person. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean you're demonic. It doesn't mean that you're not healed and that you're trying to fight your healing because you don't want to be put together as a puzzle, one big puzzle, but you want to have multiple puzzle pieces. There's nothing wrong with that. It's whatever your mind can handle. This is all about the defense mechanism in your mind to handle the trauma, especially for littles. The alternate personalities that are young, a lot of them don't want to be integrated. They just want to be safe. They want to play. They want to be happy. They didn't get a chance to have a childhood. Or maybe they had some parts of their childhood, but most of their childhood was wrecked. So a lot of littles like to just play and watch little kids shows and go to little kids movies and play with stuffed animals and toys. There's nothing wrong with that. You got to put yourselves first, guys. If you're split, it's okay to play. It's okay to allow yourself to enjoy things that little kids enjoy. It's okay to love things that seem immature to the world because that's who you are, my friends. Even if you're not split, but if you've been through a lot of trauma and your mind didn't split, but you still like stuffed animals or toys or things like that, there's nothing wrong with that. You have been traumatized. Your mind has been stunted. The trauma was so much for you that your mind got stuck in certain areas of your ages, and certain ages got repressed, and certain ages got stuck into that. Even if you didn't split fully, even if you didn't fully fragment, your mind still is like, I just want to be a little kid and feel safe and I want to be innocent. It's about getting your innocence back. Whatever you have to do for yourself as this person and as a system to heal from trauma, you do it. as long as it's not hurting another person. There's things that people try to do and they try to continue the cycle of abuse. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about innocent things. Playing with toys, watching kids' movies, going to an arcade, whatever it takes for you to heal, to get your innocence back, you do it. Don't let the abusers win. Allow yourself a chance to be a child, even if you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s. Allow yourself to get inner healing. Allow yourself to know that it's safe to be yourself and nobody else's opinion of you matters. So this is just a little bit of information about the dissociative identity disorder. I'm going to do a couple more videos today because, like I said, I am feeling safe in my headspace to be able to do these videos today. I'm not always feeling like that, so I'm going to do a couple more videos. I don't know if I'll do 1, 2, or 3. I'm not sure, but I'm going to do a couple more videos today. But that'll be in a little bit. Continue to check out the series. This is, like I said, this is video 8. I'm going up to 14 videos. I'm going to start the second part of the series where I'm going to be talking about my own stuff. I've kind of given a little bit of my own testimony here and there, but I'm going to go into graphic detail about some of the stuff I went through, which is going to be really hard, very triggering. But I want to share this stuff because it's very important that people know that this stuff goes on and that it's real. So you guys be blessed. And I am praying for you all and have a great day.